I bought this Wii online because it looked dirty and I thought it would be fun to clean it. When it arrived, it was in even better shape than I hoped. Just opening the box that it came in, I could tell that this has been in a house that's seen a lot of smoke. This is the second Wii I have restored on this channel. The first one was only my second video, so I'm hoping that I've learned a little bit more and we'll get a more complete restoration on this one. All right, let's get into this thing. If you've never seen a Wii taken apart before, they are infamous for the number of screws and different types of screws. I keep really careful track of all of mine on a magnetic pad, and then I obviously have my video to look back over when I'm reassembling. If you're taking one apart, I just want to recommend that you make sure to track where all the screws are and exactly where they go. This battery looks kind of corroded, so we're going to make sure to replace that while we put it back together. It is pretty gross and sticky inside of here. So this is not just smoke. There was also something that had to have been spilled on top of this to leak down and around here. Some sort of soda pop or coffee or something. These stickers usually don't fly off like this. They're just kind of brittle, so they're popping off when I put a little bit of leverage behind them. Normally I'm able to just get these feet out, but this is really stuck. Using my metal spudger wasn't enough, so we're going to get a dental pick and carefully get in here. This could scratch the plastic, so I want to be really careful. But it does help me get underneath this and start to loosen up that adhesive and pop this off. I'm going to need an extender in order to reach the screws down in these areas. This is not an original sticker. Normally this comes apart a little easier. It's kind of stuck, and I'm guessing it's because of whatever was spilled inside of here. That's pretty gross. And I am noticing something. I forgot to take a disc out of here. So we're going to plug this back in, reattach the faceplate, and try to eject the disc just like this. There we go. I did test the system before tearing it down and it works perfectly fine, except for the disc was a little bit sticky coming in and out. I didn't include that footage because this video ended up being really long for all the different types of cleaning I ended up doing. So since it worked, I'm just cutting out the footage of it being shown working, and we'll see if it still works at the end. There's a little clip that I want to release in order to lift this antenna out of here. And we'll get these set aside. We can't completely take them out yet. Sometimes I save this tape, but I'll probably replace it. This is definitely less daunting to disassemble now that I have done a number of these. I want to make sure not to lose this nut. It goes right in there. There is a thermal pad here that's half on this shield and half on this chip here. I'm just gonna leave it. I think it'll still work putting those back together when we're done. Need my extender once again to get these screws. And I was just trying to pull up that heatsink there, but the entire board came up with it. There's a couple of pads stuck to the main chips here. And we're almost done taking this thing apart. Let's disassemble the workings on the inside of this faceplate here. Want to show this video so I remember how to retuck that wire around when I put it back together. We'll get all these buttons out of the way. I'll go ahead and take this door off. It's pretty gross, not gonna lie. There is a bug leg that is hanging out right here. I haven't seen any full-size bugs, but definitely there was at least one bug living in here at some point. I'm not going to completely take this disk drive apart, but I want to disassemble it far enough to see underneath this shield and be able to access a good deal of it for cleaning. I'm going to make sure to take this screw out so I can completely remove these metal components from the top here. There's just a little adhesive on the bottom side of this ribbon cable. Okay, so we can clean that, and I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this board from the disk drive itself so that I can also at least see under there. And that's probably as far as I'm going to go. Any further disassembly on this disk drive would just make more of a mess than I want to deal with. And I'd be more likely to not put it together correctly and have it end up not working. There definitely was a bug living inside of here. You can see. All right, let's get stuff cleaned up here. I've got my warm water, my Dawn dish detergent. I'm going to take all of these plastic components and give them a good soak and see what that does to help loosen up the smoke grime that's built up on the outside. Steve told me he thinks it would be satisfying if I kind of stirred the parts around here in the water, so this is for you, Steve. I hope you enjoy it. Just taking a look at my motherboard here, I'm going to give it a good dusting, but first let's get these cables out of the way, and then we can use my ever so trusty electric air duster. Now, just for the few parts where there's some sticky buildup, I'm going to try to remove it with some isopropyl alcohol and my cotton swabs. There is some staining here on the board that seems to be beyond what I'm able to get with just those things. A little bit of gunk that I'm trying to carefully get off with my dental pick here, but I don't think I'm going to completely make it look exactly like new, so we'll just have to say that's good enough. I'm just putting some IPA on my toothbrush here to help clean and scrub some of these ports. Let's spray some BW100 in here just because there's a bunch of soot and gunk that's kind of built up in there and my swab won't fit in there. I do have this little pick here that I'm trying to get some of it with. And I can use this other cleaning tool that I have to get inside of those controller ports. And I think we're good with our board. just going to clean some of these wires with a little disposable microfiber cloth with a little bit of IPA on it. There's a lot of dust buildup just basically on everything here, and every single one of these individual wires is coated in it. But this seems to be doing the trick. Looks good. I'm gonna give this a good air dusting. Then we can spot clean it with our IPA and cotton swab. There are a couple little spots that my pick is just going to ever so carefully help me remove. Little stuck-on bits. I don't want to put all of the gross dirt from this fan inside of my workspace here, so I'm going to take it outside. And this is what it looks like after I put my electronic air duster on it outdoors. I'm still going to get it a little bit with my IPA and cotton swabs. There are a few little rusty spots that I'm guessing are from the bugs leaving deposits on the inside of this when they lived in it. There's a lot of different ways you can tackle rust on metal on the inside of these systems like this, and if it were completely covered in rust, I would be more likely to use a white vinegar bath and let it soak in there overnight. But for just these little spots like this, I'm not against kind of scraping and even sanding off those little bits of rust. They will show on the metal that you have scrubbed it with sandpaper, but as long as I don't get it wet again, I'm confident that it will be okay on the inside of this Wii. On this side, I want to be really careful of that lens, so I'm going to stay away from that with the brush tip of this air duster. It's hard to see on camera, but there's some gross stuff kind of hiding back in there. You see that? I'm going to be super careful just giving this a very gentle cleaning with isopropyl alcohol. I don't want to scratch that lens. A few more rust spots on the inside of this shield, and yeah, I'm good with that. Here's where that pop was probably sitting, causing rust on the outside of it. I'm giving this stuff a good scrub here, but I am able to tell while I'm cleaning it that I'm not making as big of a dent in it as I would hope. It's not coming out perfectly white and clean, and it's not because the white plastic has yellowed, as can happen with a lot of this stuff. It's honestly, I think, just because of the smoke that it was around. And this Dawn dish detergent is doing a good job at cleaning, but there's just a layer there that it's not getting to. So I'm going to continue to clean it as best I can. And then we're going to try using our isopropyl alcohol on it and giving it a little bit more of a spot clean for some of those gross spots. I think I have everything. Yep, that's it. Just some really grimy, sticky weirdnesses on here. I'm going to use my air duster here because I want to really make sure that that metal doesn't stay wet because I was soaking it. Let's see, those spots are starting to come up a little bit. See, I have a conundrum now. I got a little impatient and I wanted to try something, so I used my good old magic eraser on the bottom of this. And you see how different it looks? It looks really good, but I'm worried that if I use it on the rest of it, I'll wear out the lettering. And if I go around the lettering, you'll obviously be able to tell where it isn't as shiny white. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do right now. Let me continue to clean this. Get some of this sticker residue off of here while I think about my options. Must have been some ink or something here that was stuck. See, there's just some really caked on gunk here that wasn't coming up in my soapy bath water. This crack really keeps giving me a lot of gunk. In fact, I'm starting to wonder something. Let's go ahead and get this sticker off. Just going to soak it up with my IPA and then very carefully scrape it away with this spudger. Okay, so here we have all of our pieces. They've been cleaned with the isopropyl alcohol. And I have lettering here on my faceplate and that ATI lettering on the shell. You can see where I used my magic eraser. It's so nice and shiny white. I'm just going to very carefully try it over top of this ATI imprint here. And I can already tell, even doing very light work with my magic eraser, that it's starting to fade. So we're going to stop that and put the magic eraser away. I'm just going to have to be happy with it having that little bit of discoloration this time. If it were a few months from now, I might try something different. We'll come back to that. Right now, I want to show you this. Notice when I squeeze in here, there's some grossness that's coming up there. So I have always assumed that this is one solid part, but looking at it carefully, it looks like there is a piece of plastic that is inset into the rest of it here. I've never taken this apart before, but I'm going to try. Let's get some spacers and just try to get inside underneath here. Yep, it comes up. So there's some kind of an adhesive holding it down. I'm just going to slowly work at this using my spacers, using isopropyl alcohol. And we're just going to try to get this loose. Just putting some isopropyl alcohol inside of here to work at releasing whatever adhesive is holding this piece of plastic down. I think it's only adhesive, and I am getting it all slowly but surely here. I just don't want to break it by pulling too roughly. So we're taking our time. And I think we're about to get it. All right, here we go. And that is what was underneath there, even with the cleaning that I did. So something was definitely spilled on here. It soaked down inside of this and into part of the Wii. Let's get this cleaned up before we put it all back together. I just realized I forgot my soap. There we go, that helps. It is some sort of a double-sided tape underneath here. We'll just get rid of that and I'll replace it with something of my own. I am using a bit of a magic eraser on the inside of this. It's on the inside and it's not going to be seen, and it's helping me get this residue off of here. So no worries about using the magic eraser and its abrasiveness. Nice and clean. Let's go rinse it off, dry it off, and take a look at what we have here. This is this particular disassembled Wii. All of the pieces here. I've cleaned them. I'm ready to put it back together. I normally haven't shown this, but I want to give you a view of what I do with all the screws, because the Wii in particular is just a nightmare for this. So I use this pad by iFixit to organize all of my screws, and I just kind of keep it like a calendar as I go, putting them in their little boxes. And then when I put everything back together, using the video of my disassembly, I just look at things in reverse and put it all back together. I've been trying to do a little bit more research on these systems while I'm working on a video. Just going and watching other videos and looking up stuff online and doing some walks down memory lane as well to my own childhood or times when I played with some of these things for the first time. The Wii is fascinating to me. There's a lot that many people have said about it, and I know that I wouldn't be the first person to share some of this information, but it really was a break for Nintendo away from the gaming market to try to make something that was appealing to the non-gamer. All the way down to the remote being something that resembled a television remote that everybody would know how to use. You take this thing, you point it, you push a button. Pretty easy. And because of that, it was super accessible for a lot of people to get into trying games who normally otherwise wouldn't. In fact, I believe my own mom got into gaming around this time, and to this day is an avid gamer who has a lot of time, particularly put into Animal Crossing, but to other games as well. And it all goes back to Nintendo, I think, trying to make this push to make things a little bit more accessible and make it something that people could get into without feeling overwhelmed. Particularly when at this time the video game industry was becoming more of a thing that was overwhelming for me, even as somebody who grew up with Nintendos and Super Nintendos and Sega Genesis. The controller that had so many buttons on it was a bit of an overwhelming thing when I came back to video gaming in my 20s. I'm used to it now, and I like it now. But it was a nice way to get people into gaming who weren't normally into such things, or who felt overwhelmed by how much gaming requires of you. The thing that I think is really interesting considering all of this is that the Wii was developed to be a gaming platform for non-gamers when it came out, and that was its audience, and it's definitely where it had its success. But today, what the Wii is most used for is actually by people who I would think of are in the complete opposite end of the spectrum. It's really a system that's current life exists mostly in the homebrew community. People who take and go into the software and change and make it so that you can do things with the Wii that you weren't even able to do before when it originally came out, and restoring some other form of online presence and other things that people can do by modifying their Wiis. And it definitely appeals, I think, most now to those more hardcore techie gamers. And I find that really fascinating considering that the system itself was originally geared towards the exact opposite crowd. Another thing I wanted to talk about before the end of this video, while we're just watching all of the reassembly footage here, is what I would do to restore the white color of this console if it wasn't right now, currently, January/February. I have to this point avoided retro brighting on any of my consoles and in my systems and in my videos because I have personally not agreed that it's worth it for the potential damage that it could do to the plastic to just make it look better. So I've stayed away from it, and I talked about it in a few of my earlier videos as to what my philosophy was. But more recently, I came across a method that was developed this last year in 2023 for doing retro brighting in a way that personally I can get behind. I think that there is a way that it can be done now that doesn't require me to go outside of the philosophy of what this channel is about. So I'm going to be giving that a try probably later this spring or summer when I have sunshine. Unfortunately, what we are experiencing right now is the opposite of nice sunshiny weather. Those yellow rubber feet kind of look gross, but otherwise, it's not too bad. All right, we are ready to test this out. It passes the first flag. It turns on. Let's pair up a Wiimote and nunchuck. And we're loading up. We have our menu here. Let's throw in a disc and see if we broke that. No, we didn't. It looks like it will play a game. So I'm happy with it. I mean, there's one thing that I can't show you in this video that there's nothing I can do to help you understand the difference between how it used to smell and how it smells now. That just doesn't come across in video. It is a little bit off color still, but honestly, not too bad. Unless you're really looking, you don't even notice it. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I get to play my favorite version of Mario Kart here again. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I think you might enjoy watching whatever video YouTube recommends next from Restorish. We'll see you next time.